quarter when Trae Young stepped on the referee's ankle, and after that, it just seemed like their offense went out of sync.
Yeah, it did to a degree. I think when you talk about Trae Young's style, his ability to move around with speed on a constant basis, get the ball in his hands and create, that certainly wasn't there. You could tell in the fourth quarter when he came back, he certainly, I think he was 1 of 4 shooting from 3, which changed the game a little bit. But at the same time, Khris Middleton, they couldn't slow him down all game long. And then you add Giannis to the mix. They just didn't have an answer for the bully ball that Milwaukee continued to play. I think Milwaukee realized that we're a much bigger team than Atlanta after game 1. Let's play our style and get out on the floor and run the way we're supposed to. And that happened, and to me, it just looks like Atlanta is doomed to fail at trying to get to the finals.
The interesting thing is you see Trae Young, he had to limp back, basically came back in the fourth quarter, and you're right. He wasn't the same guy in that fourth quarter. But I'll give Milwaukee a lot of credit because they said, you know what, we're the bigger, stronger team. Let's go to our strength. And Giannis played bully ball. He had over 30. But that fourth quarter, Khris Middleton put up 20 points alone. And at one point, they were down 3, and they went on that 13-3 run, and Middleton gave it to them. Mid-range, 2 dribble pull-ups, threes, and it was like, okay, this is our closer. And I think Milwaukee realizes that in this series, if you're going to close games opposed to Giannis, I'm going to Middleton because this is a guy who can get hot. Now, I know he hadn't been good the first couple of games, but he can get hot and he can make free throws down the stretch. The crowd had already gotten in on Giannis. He airballed a free throw. The great thing is he didn't shoot any threes, but this is your guy. If you're Milwaukee, that's the guy you're going to close with.
Well, Milwaukee realized that against Brooklyn in late fourth quarters, the ball came out of Giannis's hands and went more into Middleton, and they carried it over for the most part in the Atlanta series. Atlanta, in the first game, when you talk about it, they just kind of, did what they were supposed to do. And then in game 2, things changed for them, and then clearly things have changed in game 3. But I think Middleton, for the most part, throughout the last couple of series, in terms of closing games out and being the guy in the end, Coach Bud and that staff said, okay, if we're not getting it from Jrue Holiday, Middleton has to be the guy because Giannis is playing Giannis ball regardless. Right. I mean, he's not, in my opinion, he's not what I would deem as the alpha dog in the regular season, which in the fourth quarter, he does not completely take the ball and put it in his hands and take over. Part reason is free throws. I think you don't want the ball in his hands, but also just because he doesn't really give you anything other than things inside the paint. I don't want him shooting outside the paint. I don't need threes from him. And then when you look at it down the stretch, Middleton's there, so why not let him cook? Regular season MVP all day long. Postseason MVP, not so much. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with carrying your game into the postseason from the regular season and not being the guy in the fourth quarter to take control. There's nothing wrong with that at all. And we've seen him throughout his career be able to play strong in the regular season and give us a mixed bag in the postseason. But now with Middleton cooking, it doesn't hurt the team the way he plays in the postseason.
And you know what? The best thing for Milwaukee was he wasn't playing point. It's let Jrue bring the ball up, run the offense, and then, hey, look, you just run in transition, rim run, get easy buckets. But it was Middleton who, really had it going. I want you to take a listen to what Bobby Portis had to say about his teammate last night in their victory.
Man, it was crazy, man. Just being on the floor with him, and all year long he's been making big-time plays for us, man. He's a big-time player, makes big-time shots, and, man, tonight he delivered like no other, man. I don't know how many points he had in the fourth quarter. I know it was 20-something for sure.
20 on the nose.
Ooh, he was smoking hot, man. It was crazy watching.
Of course, it's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. And look, 38 for Khris Middleton, and now the Bucks have a 2-1 lead over the Hawks. They win at 113 to 102. And it got me thinking, when you look at the 4 teams left here, if there was one guy you were going to build around, who would it be, Key? Out of the 4 teams left, and all of them got some young stars.
See, I'm not a build around Giannis guy. I just that doesn't do anything for me. I like what Atlanta has done so far with Trae Young.
Yep.
The Clippers doesn't have any young players, right? I mean, there's those guys are veterans.
I mean, they're and most the young players are role players. Terrence Mann, those guys.
Yeah,
are role
I mean,
players.
they don't have any young players that you would build around.
Right.
And the only team that come to mind for me is two guys, and it's Phoenix. Either it's DeAndre Ayton, which is playing pretty good and out of his mind right now. And my sports agent, has been for the last several months. He's been hitting me upside the head with a sledgehammer, trying to force me to really look at DeAndre Ayton as one of these guys, and he's an all-star guy. Key, I keep telling you, you're not listening.
You know what he's saying to you?
Listening to them damn ESPN people.
You know what he's
That's
saying?
What he's saying?
He's saying stop hating on DeAndre Ayton because he's the reason why they won their last game.
I like DeAndre Ayton, but when you start talking about the young guys that's left in the league, that's 25 years old and under, he wasn't on my initial list that I put out there, but he's been cooking and playing well. But it's Devin Booker. I think in the end, the question that you asked is 4 guys that are left that are young that you want to build around on these teams. The Clippers are that's nothing, and then you got 3 teams left in terms of Giannis and the Trae Young, and then Devin Booker. For me, it's Devin Booker. I think that you could do a lot of things with him because he can create a lot of different ways. He can play the point. He can be the 2. He can play defense. He's a high volume scorer. I think you can build around that. I think so.
Yeah.
And I like Trae Young. As far as Giannis goes, he cool, man. I don't rock with dude like that.
Come on, man.
I just don't. He cool. I
7
like his
foot,
skills.
the wingspan.
I like his skills, but he crumbles too much for me. In clutch situations, I've seen it where it's just like they just take him away, and he doesn't. Now, look, against Atlanta.
Yep.
He's taking advantage of the size and the inability for Capella to do anything inside with him. It's almost like he saw what Embiid was able to do when he was healthy against Atlanta, and now he said himself in terms of scouting and watching, I can do the same thing to him. So I'm going to do that. And so that's the only reason why I'm just like, he cool, but
That's the Straight Talk. It is brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. No compromise.
Right, Yates? He cool, right?
No compromise. KJZ, it is presented by Progressive Insurance. All guests, of course, appear on the Goodyear hotline. All right. Again, among all of the players left in the playoffs, who would you build your team around? We want to hear from you. 888-729-3776, 888-SAY-ESPN. Plus, listen, the Clippers are just one loss away from elimination. That's next. It's KJZ, ESPN Radio, and at